Welcome to Talkin SEC. Writer, photographer, and producer Phillip Jordan discusses all the latest in college football in the Southeast with the best analyst around. Now from the southeast corner of Alabama, a state that knows sports, here is Phillip Jordan.
All right, everybody joining me on today's show. Today's featured guest is a good friend, John Vogel, football sapient, and now managing editor of Titans Tilt over at Stadium Rant HQ. You can follow him on Twitter at Draft Vogel. And John, as always, I appreciate you coming on whatever kind of show I'm doing to talk some draft-related stuff, just good football stuff.
Hey, anytime, dude. Anytime for you especially. So I'll just drop what I'm doing and come at your beck and call.
Oh man, I feel special now. I just feel like a top guy now hearing you say that.
I'm glad you're doing okay, dude.
Oh yeah. We're recording this on the last day of May. Of course, this is dropping on the second day of June. But man, and we're like 2 months away from football season. But as you know, the business of football, the discussion of football is always going around. And I wanted to start off, when I hit you up last week, so I want to talk some of these quarterbacks. Will Levis is one I really want to discuss with you because he's the hot name, it seems, with everybody right now. But kick things off, like as I said when I introduced you, now the managing editor over at Titans Tilt at Stadium Rant HQ. Just tell listeners out there on what is Titans Tilt, what is Stadium Rant HQ if they've never heard of it.
Yeah, so Stadium Rant is going into a full-on launch on June 6th. So basically think like a fan-sided or an SB Nation type, but a lot less of the BS that kind of comes with it. Like some people, when you've worked for, fan-sided and SB Nation and stuff like that, there's some BS behind the scenes that you just kind of got to deal with. And I'm sure there's those websites where people are fine and there's no issues, but there's always issues, within that network and stuff. So it's very difficult to maintain people because of that, with the way the fan side kind of works. So they're kind of starting their own, but they're pushing more. Hey, let's be bold. Let's not let all this stuff kind of come off the table. And I really liked what the pitch was, because they approached me. They actually approached me right to do the Rams website, and I forget the name of that one, but because they've been reading my stuff on Fansided that I do, usually around draft season to help out. Because I know the editor over there real well. And I was like, Tennessee would be a better fit because I'm close to Nashville. I can start working those credentials and we get a website rocking and rolling, in terms of credibility. I was like, so that's kind of my goal with it, is to get a few other guys in here and try to get into the stadiums on Sundays. It might take me a year or so, but we're going to give it a shot. So, it's going to be a really interesting website. We've got a bunch of different guys that'll be really good in terms of fresh, unique, bold type content. That's something I think I'm pretty good at for the most part. Not trying to brag on your show or anything, but
go ahead.
Typically, I feel like that's that fits what I want to do. And then so for Football Sapient, the issue is time, right? Mm-hmm. Running a website with trying to cover as much as we wanted to, time was kind of a problem with everything else that we're trying to do. So we have some, consulting and different things that we do with, agencies, and we're trying to get in with a couple programs, college football programs as well, to help out with the transfer portal stuff. And so the website's still going to be there. It's going to focus more on that. And then this will be more of the actual media stuff that I like to do.
All right, good deal. And you had your first article on Tuesday. And excuse me, guys, if I say Monday, just the holiday week, the short week will throw me off. So you guys, please, I know the internet can be unforgiving when you make small mistakes like that. But please, if I do, guys, I apologize. So go ahead and put that out there. But on Tuesday, you did have an article up, and it was intriguing. Kind of connected to where we're going to talk about with the draft. Malik Willis, last time we talked right before the draft, we talked about some quarterbacks and stuff like that. And with him in the Ryan Tannehill situation with Tennessee. And really, I'll ask you this with Ryan Tannehill. And I've got friends looking at Alabama. A lot of people like the Tennessee Titans because they like Derrick Henry. Played at Alabama. I don't think the Titans.
How do you not like Derrick Henry?
Well, if you're an Auburn fan, I don't think you do. But
okay, I forgot about them. When was the last time Auburn was relevant? Gus Malzahn, 2013. Yeah, I just said that.
2017. Remember, you're talking to the last word college football Auburn writer here.
I'm sorry.
Just let me say that. They did beat Alabama in 2020. So I just want to throw that out there. 2019, not 2020, 2019. But anyways, but talking about Ryan Tannehill, and I've said this to some of my friends that are Titan fans, and they don't like it, and sometimes the truth hurts. I feel like they have reached their ceiling with him at quarterback. Mm-hmm. 2019 they had that good run, but then they ran into the buzzsaw that was the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you kind of seen the last 2 years, yeah, he's played well in the regular season, but then you get into the playoffs and they flamed out the last 2 years. I mean, I feel like he's taken them as far as he can go. What is your take? And at age 34, with Ryan Tannehill with this Tennessee Titans team?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because you're right. He's kind of you've seen him at his ceiling. You see him play really well in the regular season. He keeps them in a lot of games, and when you look at like the flaw of the Tennessee Titans offense, so you can make the argument saying, oh, they didn't have weapons on the perimeter. Oh, they just traded A.J. Brown away to the Philadelphia Eagles, which I'm loving that as an Eagles fan. But the fact of the matter is that they're not a pass-first team. They want to run the ball. They want to get behind Derrick Henry when he's healthy, and he's been for the most part outside of this past year. And when he's not healthy, they have built a stable of running backs to kind of replicate his repetition and what he brings to the field pretty effectively. But that kind of leaves you at the quarterback situation where it's very, very clear when you put on Titans tape and you sit there and you watch the games and everything else, especially going back and watching it again, more so for a rewatch rather than live, you realize just how much Tannehill kind of holds that offense back as a passer. They play very well to his strengths. So one of the things that he does really well is he hits timing routes 10, 15 yards over the middle beautifully. He can kind of get it to the sideline too. If you can protect him, if there's anything out of structure, forget about it. But when you can keep him in that situation, he's really good. He's an athlete. They like to get him out of the pocket on a bootleg as well. Roll him out, get the play action going with Derrick Henry or whoever your running back is. And they were very effective doing that too. It's just the mistakes that you see him make, and I argued for him after the playoff game, where he threw the 3 interceptions because 2 of them really weren't on him. But it's like you just can't make the mistakes as a veteran quarterback that Ryan Tannehill is and expect your team to, make deep playoff runs. So even when they had that deep playoff run, 2019, he averaged less than 150 yards passing a game, which is insane. That means that, we're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry, and he's going to run it up the middle. We can run a stretch or something and just give him the ball, put the game on his back, and they did that very effectively. It's like when you look at someone like Malik Willis coming in, it makes more sense to where you have a guy with tools. Like he can push the ball way down the field. Ryan Tannehill can't. He's a better athlete than Ryan Tannehill, and he needs to work on the finer-tuned things so Tannehill can kind of do well as a pro quarterback. But once he gets there, there's no doubt Malik Willis is potentially the bomb that the Titans need. So that's kind of what what the article is about, summed up.
Yeah, with Malik Willis, I mean, obviously, you even heard Hugh Freeze said he still needs to work on, reading covers, going against defenses. That's something he's still working on, which, I mean, of course, we just mentioned him earlier, but, I'm sure Gus Malzahn set him back 5 years with the offense he run at Auburn. Trust me, I am not in any disagreement with you. If Gus Malzahn, which I highly doubt he ever did, if he ever read anything I wrote or said when he was at Auburn, he probably, I'm not the head of his fan club, let's just put it that way. When he was at Auburn, I was very critical of stuff with him. But with Malik Willis, obviously got the athletic, he's got the raw talent. We saw it at Liberty, what Hugh Freeze was able to do with him. But where's he at? Obviously, you got to roll Tannehill this upcoming season. But after that, what is Malik Willis for you, what you saw him going into the draft and seeing him with his Titans team? What does he most need to work on to become that starting quarterback for the Titans?
So for him, outside of reading coverages and just understanding, defenses from pre-snap, and all that comes with reps and practice and study. And there's no doubt he has the work ethic to get all that done. Everybody says that about him. Like, he's awesome. He's a great teammate. Like, Hugh Freeze has those stories too, where he goes and makes a mistake, and Hugh wants to be mad at him, and he can't be, because they'll come over and be like, coach, we get the next one. It's fine. And he's over there, congratulating his teammates on the defense for picking him off or whatever the mistake was. And, the teammates love him. He's a great locker room kid, and he's got a really good work ethic. So you're not worried about any of that. What you are kind of worried about is mechanics, so footwork for one thing. He's very inconsistent with his feet. And when you're doing things differently, even like the types of, the steps that you're taking back when you're dropping back, working up into the pocket, moving around, you're creating a different, plant angle, essentially. And what that does is you lose a lot of control on the football, because the plant, that you're making with the rest of your lower body and trying to coordinate it with your upper body, it's out of whack. It's different every time. So you're always having to adjust. And that's what you see a lot of accuracy issues in quarterbacks is. It always goes back to their feet. And so that's kind of what he needs to do with some of that. But he's got a tight release. I'm not too worried about his upper body stuff. I think he'll be fine there. But it's just repetition, and adjusting to the speed of the game at the next level. And I think next year the Titans can get out of Tannehill's contract and pay him $18 million, which right now, like, that sounds like a big number to get out of a contract with. But the Falcons just moved, Matt Ryan this year for what? It was something ridiculous. It was like $45 million. They traded him. They paid him to trade him to the Colts. And Carson Wentz the year before, the Eagles paid like $32 million to get him out of there. So $18 million is not a lot in this modern NFL. Like, it's going to hurt. But you can kind of probably negotiate that number down next year with that contract, get him out. And yeah, I think this is Malik Willis's team in 2023 if everything goes to plan. I don't see it not. So
yeah, and there'll be a team out there that's quarterback desperate that'll probably bite on Ryan Tannehill, because if you're doing it with Carson Wentz, I would take Tannehill over Carson Wentz. that's just me, but oh yeah,
I could totally see him going to Washington next year.
Yeah,
that's a very early prediction. But anybody who knows anything about Carson Wentz right now is kind of like, yeah, it's probably not going to work there either. That's going to be a mess. So
the big reason, because it's just been on my mind, and I figured this is a good time to talk about it. And then that's the reason I asked you all, and we'll talk about the 2023 quarterback class. Very early, but it's never too early, I think, to talk about these guys. And as we were going through this past year's draft, I was like, okay, next year you figure it's going to be Bryce Young, it's going to be CJ Stroud. Now maybe I missed it. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't hearing anybody talk about Will Levis, Kentucky's quarterback, at that moment.
I've been talking about him. I've been talking about him for quite a while now. But,
okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I've been missing your Will Levis content there. But what is about him? And because like everybody, I've seen some people have him above Bryce Young. In their very early mock drafts. I know this was a guy last year saw with Kentucky, and he was a big part of the Kentucky offensive renaissance. What they did, obviously having an NFL system with Liam Cohen coming in. Of course, he's gone back to the NFL. But turnovers, 13 interceptions. He had fumble issues. But what do you see out of Will Levis that you think, he could be, take to the next level, or continue in his college career and get better this year, then go on to the next level?
The first thing that stood out to him was going from, the 2020 tape that we saw of him at Penn State, where he transferred in from, to the 2021 tape. It was night and day. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I remember watching him live in 2020. He's playing with Penn State. It was the COVID year. We thought we weren't going to have the Big Ten for a month? Yeah. And we're going to play, so they played. And Will Levis got pushed into action a little bit earlier than anybody wanted him to, because I think Sean Clifford was dealing with some injuries for a couple of weeks. And he would come in the game when Clifford would leave for a while, and he was mostly a runner. But you saw the tools, his arm strength is pretty good. It's not, top 10 if he enters the NFL, but it's pretty good. He can push the ball down the field. And that's a very athletic guy, He's a guy that he can run pretty well. He's pretty strong and stout. It's a guy that reminds me a lot of Kyle Trask in terms of a skill set, maybe a little bit more accurate. But yeah, so that the jump that he made, and a lot of that I think goes to Liam Cohen, who put a really great offense together for him. And I mean that's he was awesome last year in terms of being just growth as a passer. He still, like, it always goes back to feet. He's still got to work on his feet. The potential's there. He doesn't maneuver the pocket as well as I'd like to see him at times. Now, he'll get stone-footed at times, and he'll stand there and just, normally you see, quarterbacks pedaling their feet. That's so that they can move faster. He'll just stop, and it drives me nuts. His accuracy could get better, but again, that's going to go back to the feet. I like a lot of the things that he has, and I don't know if I'd put him ahead of Bryce Young yet. I don't think I would do that, or CJ Stroud for that matter, but I'm looking at him right now as probably like a day 2 guy who can sneak into day 1. If he has a really good year, this is a guy that's potentially going in the top of the first round.
Yeah, with Kentucky too, and I don't have their schedule in front of me, but they're going to be the second best team in the SEC East. I mean, they're not going to outdo Georgia.
See, but Tennessee's pushing really hard. Tennessee beat them last year. And Tennessee's going to get better. And South Carolina gave Kentucky a real storm, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 16 to 10.
Be a lot better.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so we can jump it. Okay, if you're going to bring it to Tennessee, I have learned my lesson with the Vols when they have some positive momentum, which I like what Josh Heupel did. He did a lot with very little last season. But I just remember previous coaches having some momentum. Pruitt, Jones, even Dooley had a little bit, and then they kind of went backwards. So I'm not hating on Tennessee going into the season. I need to see them do it for me to kind of buy into it. I like Hendon Hooker at quarterback. I mean, they're going to have a great offense once again, I believe. But yeah, so we can differ on that. But I'm kind of big. My belief is Kentucky is going to be the second best team there, just because.
Yeah, well, Kentucky's going to have to beat them in Knoxville because Tennessee went up there and beat them. Up there in Kentucky, Lexington this past year, and I think that offense was so difficult to stop last year. I mean, I'm sure you talked about it on your show, but just the fact that you've got an offensive coordinator who gets 8-9 plays into a drive. He's like, hey, end the drive. My linemen can't handle this anymore. Like it's unlike anything that we've really seen, at the speed that they play at. But I think that they'll be fine. I think Hendon Hooker is going to take a step forward. The Senior Bowl really likes him, Jim Nagy, and I think that he's potentially like a day 1 guy too if everything goes well this year for him.
Yeah, well, they're going to be good. I mean, I'm just wait and see for me. It's just going to have to be wait with me on this.
Well, I'll agree to disagree. I think Tennessee's going to make a really great push this year, and it's going to. I'm looking forward to it as a Tennessee fan because I've been waiting forever for this to happen. But I mean, you are right. Every time they got some momentum, they fall. Now, I will say that Phil Fulmer's gone. That's probably going to have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Thank God we ran him out. But yeah, well, you are right. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Sure. But my whole thing though with Kentucky is, I think they will be one of the fighting for the second spot in the SEC East. That they will be in some bigger games and some opportunities for Will Levis to really show himself. I mean, obviously going against Georgia. I mean, there's going to be opportunities, I think, where you can really show against higher quality teams that he'll have opportunities.
Yeah, and Georgia's going to be the big one. I guess, he looked okay against them last year. Granted, it was, arguably an entire NFL defense that they had, but he looked okay. Kind of struggled with the pressure, which is fine. They had 2 defensive tackles that both ran sub 4.80s. So I mean, you can't find many NFL teams with that kind of speed. It's ridiculous what they had.
Oh yeah. I mean, everybody said, "Oh, they lost so many guys." Like, yeah, they got a bunch of them right behind them too. So don't think the Georgia defense is going to take a. I mean, they may take a little bit of step back. But when you were at one point being called the greatest defense of all time before you met Alabama in the SEC championship game, yeah, they're going to be tough to score against when it comes to Georgia. Talking about Alabama, so I want to talk to you about Bryce Young too a little bit. And for me, I'm very impressed with him. And actually, what he did against Auburn when that game was not going his way, the Alabama offense was having issues with Auburn. They still found a way, and just the toughness, just being able to find a way to win at the end, that was impressive in what he did all year. But I will say, and I would love to get your take on Bryce Young overall, but my biggest, I don't know if it's a complaint, criticism, but something I see him do sometimes to me when I watch him play, and I know he wants to get the ball down the field, sometimes it feels like he might hold on to the ball too long.
Yes.
And he does not use his athletic ability, his run. He does have the ability to be a good runner and to get away from some things. I would like to see him take more advantage of his athletic ability, his legs, and make some more plays for Alabama. Now, I don't think he's going to throw it as much this year because their running back situation in Alabama last year, they were depleted at running back. I mean, it was Brian Robinson and nobody else last year. And then, but with him, like I said, I'd like to see him, not all the time, but when, there's nothing downfield, just take off and run and get the first down. He has the capability of doing it. But what is your overall take on Bryce Young?
Very intriguing guy. And I think the size is going to be the first factor that's going to kind of come in. He needs to put on some weight because he's already kind of a shrimp. So I saw him play. This was, I think it was, 2-3 years ago? He played in I guess it was 3 years ago now. He played in the, why can't I think of the name? The Under Armour All-American Bowl. And I was thinking Army, and I was like, it's not Army. It wasn't back then either, and I was really, I was kind of pissed about it. But, he's in the Under Armour All-American game, or Toyota, whatever it is now. I guess it's Toyota. And I was watching him play. He was, committed to Alabama. He was literally going to leave the game and fly to Alabama. He was an early enrollee and everything. And I texted a friend of mine. I was like, this is Tua Tagovailoa 2.0. I mean, it's an upgrade. He's a little bit smaller, I think, than Tua, but man, this kid, he could play. He's awesome. And so that's kind of how I look at him, is he's a lot like Tua in terms of, his build. And I think he's a little bit more athletic. I think his arm's a little more live, which is all great because, he did put that Alabama offense at times on his back last year, especially late in the year. It didn't work out, in the championship game because you lost your top two receivers who went on to be, top, 55 picks in the NFL draft. But he's got a lot of really great tools. His processing speed, probably top of the class already at this point. I think if he had been able to come out this past year, you would have seen a lot of people talking about taking this guy first overall before any of these quarterbacks because he was already prepared to go. Processing is great. Arm strength is great. He's very athletic. You are right. You do want to see him move around and try to take off, get those first downs more. You don't always see that out of him. And that is frustrating because he'll have, I think it was against Miami. He'd have these giant open lanes that he could just literally kind of gallop through. He could take his sweet time. He's got a first down, go down, slide down, get up, play the next play, and he's trying to force the ball to the corner or something. And that's fine too, because you see that he's a guy that doesn't want to, run. He doesn't want to overutilize himself. He wants to use the team, which is that's all good stuff. But at some point, you have to make some good decisions with that. But overall, this is a guy he's NFL ready right now. It's ridiculous. He came in ready. He pulled all the money that he possibly could. He's worth right now, I think On3 has him estimated at $3 million a year in NIL deals. And that's insane. And of course, that's the Alabama brand, but that's insane. And he's handling the money great. No distractions. He's doing awesome. So I think we're going to be looking at a very professional guy here who's going to probably go very high.
Yeah, you kind of got to wonder, honestly, when you look at this past year's class, where would you have ranked him against these guys?
Oh, number one, 100%.
Yeah.
I would have felt like Bryce Young is a guy. Last year, I might not have started him right away. I might have waited a game or two and had a really bad quarterback in front of him and got, okay, I'm sick of playing this guy like Jared Goff or whoever that might be. I'm just, I'm not trying to name names or anything, but Jared Goff. and go. I put him in like week 2, week 3 in relief, and just be like, yeah, okay, go at it, and I think he'd be fine. He's got another year to learn the process, but even better, to get all this stuff kind of figure out how to play the game precisely, and he's going to do that. I have no doubt in my mind he's going to make a run for the first overall pick next year. It's going to be between him and Will Anderson.
Yeah, Alabama's got plenty to build around. I mean, and actually they didn't. And I tell people this: they didn't really, outside of the 2 receivers, they didn't really lose a lot off that national championship losing team. That's why they're my favorite going into the college football season, just because everything got coming back in. Of course, it's Nick Saban, unless him and Jimbo Fisher get in a fist fight on October 8th, and then something happens there. But
wasn't that just one of the most awesome things to happen during the offseason?
I loved it. And honestly, I told you off here, I have not recorded a podcast of any kind in 4 weeks. I have not even got to touch on that topic yet.
I was sitting back. I was like, I'm going to pop me some popcorn, and I'm going to throw my legs up, and I'm just going to watch this good old-fashioned coaches fight. I'm like, hey, follow me if you like this too. Please, I'm paying you. This is awesome.
Because I believe it was a Wednesday night, and I had seen I didn't watch the video, but I had seen kind of like some quotes that Nick Saban said. I said, "Ooh, this is not going to go over well," because Jimbo Fisher already had it. Because Lane Kiffin kind of called him out after signing day. Just Lane Kiffin didn't say his name. Nick Saban just took it a step further, and then I was at work, and I was just happened to get on Twitter, and I said Texas, and it said Texas A&M has called for a press conference at 10 a.m. I said, "Oh, this is not good."
I mean, where was the lie?
Yeah,
where was the lie? I mean that's what I'm trying to comprehend. It's like Jimbo gets up there and he's going, "Hey, I can't believe I gotta come up here and defend all my kids and blah blah blah," whatever he said, and it's like, dude, it's legal now. Who cares?
I know.
You can buy all your players. We don't care.
I know.
Give us a great football team. We'll watch it.
That was my biggest complaint with the Jimbo Fisher side of it. Was the fact is Nick Saban never accused you of cheating. But he acted like he just got accused of cheating. He said, basically saying, he's got some skeletons in the closet. I'm like, Nick Saban never accused you of cheating. He never accused you of wrongdoing. And look, it's okay, if players get a little NIL, that's legal. So I doubt was that, but Jimbo was mad, and I know this,
especially in Texas. Like Texas, everything's wide open. You got boosters working with schools, going, "Hey, who do you guys want?" And they're like, "Hey, well, we want this guy, and they're like, "All right, bet." And they're handing out $100,000, and that's awesome. I wish I was a player, highly rated player coming out of college right now, looking with SEC schools looking at me because I ain't even got to play. And I could sit here in red shirt and sit on my $100,000 or whatever they're paying out. That's ridiculous.
And the fact of it is, the voice of reason, this whole thing, Deion Sanders, and he was completely right. And this is what I thought when Nick Saban said what he said. He was not talking. He used Texas A&M name. He said Deion Sanders. He said Jimbo Fisher, but he was talking to the boosters, the money people in Tuscaloosa.
That's exactly what it was. Is he's saying, "Hey, start paying up some money so we can keep these number 1 recruiting classes coming to Alabama. Like, I don't think we could do number 2 next year right now."
Yeah. Nick Saban does not say anything in where he knows it's going to get out without there being a reason behind it. It's either toward his players, he's trying to teach them a message to the media, or the boosters. I mean, like he did there. I mean, he never says anything that does not have a reasoning behind. He just doesn't just say something to say it, because Nick Saban's is not that kind of guy that's going to get into a shouting match on, through press conferences with another coach. It's just not, that's not who he is. It's never been who he is. So, I mean, for some people, I guess if there's some people that didn't realize that, I mean, you got to, because, I keep repeating myself here, but Nick Saban doesn't say anything. He doesn't send a message out without a reason for it. And that's exactly what he was doing.
Oh, no, it was like a battle cry to the boosters where it's like, hey, like, if we want to continue being a top program, y'all are going to have to pay more money, because that's just where college football's going right now. Help me out here. But, I just thought it was hilarious that Jimbo took it where he did. Lane kind of got into the action a little bit on Twitter, which was funny. And, I mean, just a classic SEC old, showdown.
Yeah, it was
3 press conferences, and I can't wait for media days. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, they're in Destin together right now with the SEC spring meetings, which I will be jumping into heavily next week here on the show. But yeah, so that's interesting. But that's going to be that's more tame compared to, like you said, when media days hit in July. That's going to be it's going to be very interesting SEC media days. So lastly, I did want to ask you about CJ Stroud, the other guy, and I told you it'd be 25, 30 minutes. We're about to hit 30-minute mark, so I'm probably going to keep you a few minutes longer than I said I would.
Dude, like, we do this every single time. Like, I just expect to go. I was kind of surprised that you were like, hey, we're just going to go 45 minutes this time. I'll be like, all right, the entire hour. Scratch it off my calendar, But so Stroud is kind of I might be a little bit early to this. There's a lot of people that, come out in the media and they start throwing names around. Like right now, PFF is throwing around Antonio Richardson as a top 5 player next year. Like, I don't know how you watch any of the tape and thinking, God's green mind, like, where is he going to be a top 5 player? Like, it's just not going to happen. Not this year. I mean, I could be completely wrong. He could be Joe Burrow, like on steroids, but I don't see that happening at all. Stroud is kind of one of these names, I think, where he's getting a lot of hype because he has some tools. He's got a really good arm. He had a really great receiver room last year. I mean, 2 top 20 picks in your receiver room. Really, you can make the argument say it was borderline top 15 because Olave went 16. Plus, you got another guy coming out this year, and you got people lined up behind him. So I think that Stroud, because I had the same sort of issue with Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields coming out, but I knew that there would be limitations in his first year in his processing. And it's because Ohio State likes to run half-field concepts where you have a man-beater concept to the left, for example, and a zone beater to the right. You're running 4 receivers or a tight end or whatever you've got out there, and you run these routes. So you make a pre-snap determination. Okay, are we playing man? Are we playing zone? That's whatever they're playing. You run the one that they're going to the route concept that they're going to beat. That's your progression for the next play. And that's what Ohio State does. And so Stroud is a little bit behind. He's not, he's a 1-2 read kind of guy. He might be able to get to the 3 and 4 if he has to extend the play. So he does some of that stuff nicely. But I think people are kind of jumping the gun. And I think CJ Stroud is one of these guys where it's kind of like, well, maybe maybe everybody's kind of jumping too quick looking for the next Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or whatever people look for. And he's got the good size. He's got a good arm. He's pretty athletic. But let's pump the brakes a little bit and look at the situation that Ohio State's in and not do this again, like this Justin Fields thing again. So I'm not saying Justin Fields isn't going to be a good quarterback. I'm just saying people thought that he was better than Trevor Lawrence. Some people did. And, he's a day 1 starter, and he was clearly not. Stroud's kind of in that territory too.
What's when you watch him play? And look, I don't know. Sometimes for me, when I watched him last year, especially early in the year, the Oregon game comes to mind. He got flushed out of the pocket. He just fell apart at times, and he had some struggles. And look, you're right. That receiving core really good. I mean, it was so good it ran Jameson Williams down to Tuscaloosa. To me.
I mean, yeah, you're right.
I mean that's how good it was. What are his biggest weaknesses you see?
So right now, his biggest weakness is processing. I mean, when you're used to running half-read concepts like that, it stunts your growth as a passer. And the reason that is because you're trying to make, Ohio State in this case, they're trying to make the offense very simple for the quarterback to understand. Because the faster he can go through his reads, even if it's 1 or 2, whatever that is the faster he can go through that, the faster the ball's out of his hands, the more effective that spread offense is going to be. And it is a spread that they run there. And, they'll run out. They like to go, what we call, I guess it'd be 10 personnel, no tight end, 4 wide receivers, a running back. And I like that. And that's fine. You could do that. But when you're running these concepts and you're spreading the defense out and you're, pre-snap, you're not really concerned about zone 2 or zone anything or whatever it is. You're just reading it going, okay, I've got man right here. I've got a man beater here. I'm going to do that. And you're reading that one half of the field. You don't see a lot of, cross, like, mesh type concepts that Ohio State runs or anything that, brings people together, across the middle of the field unless, running two separate things, because that's how the offense is designed. So that's my biggest concern with him right there. I think the other thing is, yeah, he was accurate, but was he really that accurate? And again, like, you had great receivers across the board. You can underthrow Chris Olave. That guy ran like a 4.3 something. You can underthrow Garrett Wilson or make him go up and catch something, because that's what he does. So how much of it was him making throws to get the receivers there, or the receivers making it look great? I think those are the two concerns that I have. I think they'll be answered a little bit better this year, because you've got I can't remember the guy's name right now. Jackson.
Oh, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, Smith and Jigba. That's it. And you got him, and then you got some guys that don't have a lot of experience behind him. And so it's not going to be like I've got 3 first-round picks that I'm throwing to, that have the experience and know how to beat people and run these routes really well. That's yet to be determined. And so I think it'll be a really good opportunity to size up what he exactly can do. But right now it's processing, and I don't think he's as accurate as people think he is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting with all these quarterbacks. I mean, these 3 mentioned. So, and there'll be other quarterbacks that rise up throughout the year. And, these guys are going to be analyzed throughout the season, and of course, after the season. So we got a long ways to go until next year's draft. But it's going to be interesting watching these guys develop this upcoming year. And it's always fun, John, talking all things football with you. If the listeners out there want to follow you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, so TitanTilt.com now. Maybe I should still have a ton of stuff up on footballsafety.com as well. And if you just want to keep up with everything that I'm did now and everything that we're working on, it's at Draft Vogel. And on Twitter, that's probably the best way to do it. And we just keep pumping stuff out, keep working, keep that grind going.
Oh yeah. Football never ends. It's year round. So
if somebody tells you that, it's the off season, you don't work this, you're not going to make it.
no, there is no such thing. There's no such thing as an off season in the sport of football. But anyways, John, like I said, I appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime down the road.
Yeah, of course. Just holler at me, and I will see what I can do.
Thank you for listening to Talkin' SEC. Follow Phillip on social media at PJordanSEC and the show at Talkin' SEC Pod. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time when we're talking SEC.